All right, welcome back to the next episode of Regrettable Life Decisions, featuring my Evo IX wagon. As you can see, it is back home. I'm just going to give it an update on what's going on. So the car got towed to a local workshop to try and get the ECU running and get the ECU functioning with the engine. So that is currently working. I'm going to kind of step through, I wouldn't say some challenges, but just some things to be aware of if you are wanting to do, even for the manual guys as well, just do this conversion yourself as well. Might potentially throw something up on the screen here to do with some information from Haltech. It's in relation to the map sensor that's on the plenum. So the base map, all things considered, for the Evo 8 MR9 that Haltech provide, a lot of the feedback I got is when I started asking some questions as to why my car wouldn't run. A lot of people were like, yeah, normally it's pretty good, it should just fire up. So we'll kind of step through that. Workshop went through, they did all the timing. Like, I had a go at doing this myself, thinking that would have maybe been the issue, but yeah, they've set all the base timing. It is running, it is idling. Everything is still all the factory sensors. However, I do believe the information is on the Haltech website to do with the factory map sensor for the Evo. I do believe they state that it can't actually be used as a sensor for the Haltech. I don't think that's an issue on the Haltech end. I think it's just a limitation of the factory map sensor, which is basically the root cause of why the vehicle wasn't starting. So you got two options. If you're doing a plug and play solution and you want to load the base map up and get the vehicle to fire turnkey. One is replace the factory map sensor. I believe there are options out there. I got recommended one from the workshop called Omni. I think they do a 3 or a 4 bar map sensor. I think they're about $200 odd. But then you've got to do some rewiring. I haven't particularly looked into it, but you can do rewiring, put the new map sensor on there, and basically select in the ECU that you want to do an API and use basically a voltage input for the map sensor. Given how expensive the ECUs are, I feel that the better way to go and get the most bang for your buck is to run a vacuum line. So that's basically what's been done here. So I've got the old Fast and Furious vacuum line in through the window mod, and that's currently running into the Haltech. So basically that was the key thing on actually getting the vehicle to run. So using the onboard map sensor. So one of the initial tasks I'm going to do is reroute that vacuum line. I think there's potentially some holes in the firewall to where the throttle cable goes through. I haven't actually had a perfectly good look. I'm just bumming around in here. Or wherever the factory ECU harness goes into the vehicle, which I believe is that down there. So there might be some capacity to feed it in through there. So just something I've got to investigate, but yeah, obviously not ideal currently. And it is, I would say, on an improved area, I guess, because I believe, again, I think I read something on the Haltech website saying to don't use your fuel pressure reg vac line there, because it can kind of fuck with your fuel pressure. So probably just going to leave it teed in there, just reroute the line. Got plenty of slack there, so if I have to go in through the driver's side and across, I think I'm going to be fairly well right. But yeah, they got the vehicle started and running. The next step, because that's basically what I wanted to do it at home, but I just couldn't get it to that point. So if you are playing this at home, obviously get all this stuff sorted first, then you can continue on with your fault finding. Save you some dollars with tow. The next part is obviously I wanted to get the vehicle running at idling so I could have a baseline. So I've got a little bit of a job list over on the board there for stuff that I need to start doing. So yeah, get the vac line rerouted. Going to put in the wideband sensor. It's currently, yeah, it's just still got the narrow band in. It is running, however, it's not the most ideal solution if you're wanting good economy and good tuning. So I should be able to slot that straight in, just select all the requirements in the Haltech, and we're going to be off to the races. So I want to get those two things done, and then I can move on to basically removing any unnecessary inputs into the Haltech. So stuff like the map sensor that's getting wired in here now, I'm not going to need that. Stuff to do with the airflow meter, also not going to need to do with that. And there are just a bunch of inputs that are no longer required. However, may be required to get the gearbox operational. So I've been trying to hunt around the internet on finding information, and it's been difficult to say the least. But at this point in time, I believe the gearbox is in a limp mode. So the car will crank, start, idle. I can select park, reverse, neutral, drive. It will go forwards and it will go backwards. However, I believe the gearbox is stuck in like second or third gear. And basically no ability to manually shift the gearbox either. So good signs, to say the least, that everything's still functioning. However, the tricky part's going to be upcoming to basically split all the wiring between the two ECUs. So trying to do it as efficient as humanly possible without absolutely butchering everything and making a mess. As you can see, I've already done some of the power. The power and like all the 12 volts and all the grounds using basically one of these Deutsch bus connectors. I'll get a little closer up in there. So this is a 12 pin one, so I think it's like 4 lots of 3. So basically I could take a voltage that was coming in on a certain pin on a certain plug, put that into here, and then split it out 2 ways to go to both the ECUs. So again, did that. That was all successful. It didn't improve the gearbox situation, which would have been the gold-plated solution. However, that was wishful thinking. So initial assessment is, yeah, got no gears. Well, I've got a single gear rather, and the speedo also doesn't work. So instantly I know that I need to split the speedo sensor. And I found on a Eclipse, like a Mitsubishi Eclipse forum, some signals that have been split between getting dual ECUs running in those things. So I've got a general path that I need to travel down, which is good. However, getting in touch with people who know people that have done this conversion before. So actually getting some consolidated evidence, so that way I'm not completely trying to butcher the harness to the best of my ability and just doing what is actually required. I guess what is a known thing is that at least all the signals that are there used to run the gearbox. So it's going to be just a matter of putting in the required ones, and we're going to be happy days and driving the vehicle again. And yeah, that's basically where we're at now. So as a recap, factory setup, you pull out all the manual wiring inputs, put that into your Evo plug and play setup. You must run a vac line to the onboard map sensor for the Haltech, or replace the factory map sensor and rewire in your own one. Again, I would probably err on the side of caution and not do that because you're introducing an unknown. Tapping into the vac line here is probably going to be your safest option, and have confirmed working results, which is fantastic. I think that's probably going to be it for this little update, and probably come back once I've got this the vac line rerun. So yeah, useless as dog balls. I don't know what the fuck that actually does for the stock ECU. Obviously it's required for something, but hey, live and learn. So yeah, that's the reason why Haltech mentioned that on their website. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up here. All right, bit of an update time. So been busy today getting stuff sorted. So wanted to rectify the wideband and the vac hose line situation. So I needed to plumb them through the file, which is all now done. So I'm just going to go through a few things that I kind of learned today, I guess. So it's a bit bright. Wideband is now installed. See that down there? So mildly concerning, that bit of exposed wire and stuff that close to the heat shield and stuff, but there's a few other wires and stuff there, so I'm assuming it's going to be okay, but otherwise it's got a pretty short tail. So this is just an NTK sensor from the Haltech website, because it's all plug and play just with the Nexus series. The extension cable is running up here, across here, just tied it in with that loom, and then feeds back down towards the firewall. Now, as far as actually getting the old narrowband out and putting the wideband in, I had started with removing the top heat shield and then making an attempt to remove the bottom heat shield, and there's a couple of bolts. So on the lower heat shield, bolt there, and then there's a cheeky bolt all the way down there. I thought that was going to be it, but there's a fourth bolt somewhere down in the nether regions down there somewhere, so wasn't able to get the shield off. So I was trying to make the access a little bit better. Turns out, because just after I bought the car, I had actually got a new narrowband fitted, just for a peace of mind thing. I think the workshop that I had sent it to, I think they had a bit of trouble actually getting the original one out, so I think that was my saving grace here. So what I ended up having to buy was basically a specialized tool. So yeah, just an oxygen sensor removal tool. I think it's like $26, something to that effect anyway. Basically you put a ratchet onto the end of it, and yeah, the sensor comes in and out pretty easily. And it was able to be done with the lower heat shield installed. So little did I know I will have to go to do that process twice, but we'll get to that in a bit. Yeah, so put all the new sensor in, that was fine. The vac line has now been routed just along the fuel rail there at the moment. Still got some excess just in case it just needs to be rerouted. The primary thing was just to get it out from underneath the bonnet and then going back in through the window. So yeah, just in through the little grommet down there, and basically pops out into the footwell with all the other wiring for the ECU. So yeah, got everything installed, re-ran all the vac line, got the computer hooked up to the Haltech, and basically started going through all the configuration for the wideband, selecting it, O2 control, stuff like that. Found out that I needed to calibrate the wideband sensor because it's an NTK sensor. So the calibration requires it to be open to open air, essentially, so it can be calibrated correctly. So out comes the oxygen sensor for the second time. Basically pretty simple calibration process. The sensor doesn't get too hot either, so I just sat it up on the up on the rad support here just with a rag underneath it. Did all the calibration. It took not even a minute, I wouldn't think. Put it back in, and yeah, car fired straight up. So it's now on wideband O2 control, which is utterly fantastic. So yeah, that's kind of just been some fun for the last few hours of today. Yeah, so everything is just coming in through the firewall just with the wiring loom. At this point, to get the O2 wideband sensor cabling through the firewall, I had to just de-pin the Deutsch connector that's on this end and then feed it through the firewall and then just re-terminate the cable on the other end. So at this point in time, if I need to move that wiring harness around or it requires me to shift it at all or remove that harness at all, then I've got to de-pin the connector. So I think that should be just sitting in there. So that's where the sensor is sitting. Correction, the connector. So basically got the wiring loom extension and then into that grey plug over there, which is going into the sensor. So it was all long enough, which was fantastic. So no extra bits needed there. So at this point in time, just waiting on a couple more bust Deutsch connectors, and then I can start taking out some signals from the plug and play adapter and splitting them between the two ECUs and hopefully give gearbox control back. So I've also bought an OBD scanner, so that way I can try and clear any codes that are off the stock ECU, that if it's going to cause any troubles, but hopefully not. But yeah, a little bit of an update there. So next step is to start de-pinning and re-pinning stuff again.